Welcome back to another episode of the Miami Heat Roundtable. My name is Amir, joined today by Martel. You can find Martel on the Miami Heat Zone podcast, and I'm joined by Ernest. You can find him on Miami Heat Talk. Before we get into the video, I just want to thank everybody for subscribing to our channels and following us. But for those folks that are not subscribed to our channels, subscribe to our channels. We're getting some good feedback that you guys enjoy these roundtable episodes. We really enjoy connecting and networking and getting together. So if you can, subscribe to all our channels. Trent's not available today, so don't forget about Trent. We'll link his channel in the description as well. So that's Miami Heat Network. But anyway, so we wanted to hop on real quick, and it's All-Star break, so the Miami Heat don't play for another week. We have some guys that are going to be participating in the All-Star weekend, which is good. We got Jaime Jaquez in the Rising Stars game and the dunk contest, and then we have Bam in the All-Star game on Sunday. So we want to talk about just the current status of the Miami Heat. So 2 big wins back-to-back on the road to finish before the break, which is huge. They're 30-25 now, 7th seed, half a game behind the Pacers. And luckily, the Sixers and the Knicks are kind of free-falling. They're dealing with some injuries too right now. So we might be able to catch up to those teams as well, which is huge. So let's start off with you, Martel. What are your thoughts just so far? It's not the midway. They used to do this at All-Star break. It used to be at the 42 mark, but now we're at 55 games. So we have 27 left. But how do you grade this Miami Heat team so far and how they've performed so far this year?
Well, it's really hard to grade the team only because, we're always injured. And as soon as we get back healthy, we're probably healthy for like a few games and then boom, back to more injuries. My biggest thing about this Miami Heat team, and this playoffs is really going to tell that, is can Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler play together? Can they all function with each other in the playoffs? And especially Tyler here. Like, I really want to see how he looks, after All-Star break. Now, the other big question is also, too, is that when everybody gets back, what are some of the starting lineups going to look like? I know that Jovic, he's been playing phenomenal. Well, not phenomenal, but he has that potential to at least help Bam Adebayo with that 4 position. And same thing with Duncan Robinson. He's been playing great. And, for him to go back to the bench, I think that's a hard pill for him to swallow. So we're going to have to see when Terry and everybody comes back, and especially with, DeLon Wright coming now, how do we really put all these guys right on the court together, and what are the lineups going to look like?
Yeah, Ernest, what do you think about the team so far, how they've done?
I mean, if you want to give it a grade, I agree with Martel. Injuries really have held us back, but I would give us a solid B. I know we had that the 7-game loss stretch that really hampered us. I thought before that the Heat were having a great season. You had breakouts from Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Josh Richardson was looking nice, Kevin Love was looking good. I think this team currently constructed is fine. I think in the playoffs we can definitely make some noise. I agree with Martel. We need to figure this lineup out. It's not really just the lineup, it's figuring out who's your best 9. Spo likes to go with a 9-man rotation during the season, but in the playoffs, it's usually 7 to 8. So who are going to be those guys moving forward? Now, I heard a rumor, or not a rumor, I actually read an article yesterday that an NBA executive thinks that Nikola Jovic is actually going to be a secret weapon for the Miami Heat come playoff time. So that's something to look into. I think the Heat need to go with him simply because of the fact of what he does when he's out there with Bam. I can't think of another NBA team that your 2 big guys, your center and your power forward, can lead a fast break and be ball dominant players with the ball in their hand. I can't really think of a lot of teams that have that with their center and power forward. I like Caleb Martin, I like Haywood Highsmith, but the last thing we need is a 6'3" power forward. Jovic gives us everything we need offensively, size, presence. It's just his defense. So we need to get this figured out. We got the best coach in the NBA. That's what the season's for. I really believe come playoff time, the Heat are going to push it just like we've seen them last year. It's Groundhog's Day, bro. We're at the same situation we're at last year, but I think we can get out of the play-in. I think we can.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny. We have the same exact record, but it's still like a different season. Last season, we lost to more of those crappy teams. I know we've had some bad losses, losing to like the Toronto Raptors and a few other teams that are subpar. But at least we're not having like all those clutch games. Like last year, it was like every single game was a clutch game. At least this year, at least most recently, we've had some kind of blowout games and some games that like weren't down to the wire that were super torturous. So that's a good sign too. And I think that's because our defense has been picking up. And to your guys' point, beginning of the season, we were playing really well. We were 8 games above 500 at that point. We were ahead of the Knicks and who else was it? The Magic and the Pacers and all those teams. We were the third seed. I mean, it was really early on, but like we thought we were like in that tier with the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Celtics. And then we had a ton of injuries that, again, Tyler Hero missed 18 games and Bam missed double digits. And then Jimmy, of course, has missed double digits now. And we've been able to hang on, which is surprising. You know, we've been up and down, and that's Miami Heat basketball since this Jimmy Butler build. Like it's just dealing with injuries for the most part, but we don't use that as an excuse. So team's getting better defensively, which is great. I remember talking to you guys a month ago, and the Heat's defensive rating was like 14 or so. And I was like, in order for this team to succeed, we need to be a top 10 defense again. And right now, our defensive rating is 8. So we're 8th right now, which is a good sign. And Bam is playing better, obviously, defensively, Caleb Martin. And then, of course, the guys that usually get hunted, like a Jovic, who's been playing lately, and Duncan and Tyler have been playing better too. So the big issue, though, is always the offense. Offensive rating's 22. So we need to figure stuff out. Terry Rozier's hurt. He's out. Hasn't looked good with Tyler Hero and just has been shooting poorly. So I think moving forward, we are going to be a threat. And I think the only team we're all probably worried about realistically in the East is the Boston Celtics, right? And we had a great game against them a week ago or so, even though we lost by 4 points, but we were shorthanded. So do you guys feel like the Bucks, Sixers, and Knicks are not threats at all? And then this is kind of lining up to your point, Ernest, how every season comes, like people forget about us. They don't talk about us. They don't report us. And then when it comes to playoff time, no one wants to play us.
This happens every year. It happens every year. And I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. I'm not fazed by it. The great thing about this team is that seeding doesn't matter. And I remember the beginning of this year, when the Heat were 4th, I'm thinking, all right, get this. Get top 4. Show your presence of the season. It doesn't matter. When it comes playoff times, it's just like you said, ain't no team want to see this smoke for 7 games. We're the hardest team in the East to beat. Boston is right there with us. When they got that unicorn, at first, when they made the trade for Marcus Smart, I'm thinking terrible trade. Then they got Drew Holiday, and then you see Porzingis out there with them. They're a real threat. That size issue is a real big deal. But I'm fully confident in this roster in a 7-game series. Now, 2 things, which is very important. 1, health. We know this. It's our issue every single year. I've called this the LeBron curse on my channel. Since 2014, since LeBron has left Miami, every year we are knocked with this injury bug. Call it bad luck, call it a curse, call it just in our heads, but it's the truth. So the Heat need to be healthy. But secondly, man, you got to get an optimal lineup out there. Now, I know you mentioned with Terry Rozier hasn't been playing that great with Hero. That wasn't really the case the last 3 games before he got injured. They were actually getting better acclimated. Terry Rozier was actually finding his place in the office. That's why this injury sucked, man, because he was really getting acclimated. What I feel, what should happen when Rozier comes back, we've all said this, but I think the optimal lineup is to continue to have Duncan Robinson out there. When Duncan comes off the bench, he's not playing with Jimmy and Bam. Duncan gets his optimal usage when he's out there with Jimmy and Bam because he doesn't need to play with the ball in his hand. He spaces the floor. He allows Jimmy and Bam to create on their own. He doesn't allow the double team to come. When he's out, when he's out there, either if it's with Rozier or Tyler, it's a different offense. But when you have Tyler Hero and Rozier out there, it's 2 Tylers basically. And that Tyler's even mentioned he's become more of a shooter in his game to help the offense. I've noticed that. I've given Tyler credit, but Duncan is the more optimal player to have out there. Either Duncan, Jaime, or Caleb Martin starting at that shooting guard position because that gives us a different offense and it gives us a better defensive presence. Not with Robinson, obviously, but I think the offense flows better. I don't know what Martel thinks.
Yeah, Martel, who do you think if Duncan is going to come in that starting lineup, who do we put to the bench? Because I know you want that. We talked about this in the last episode, you and I. So,
Man, it's kind of hard, bro. Like, whatever makes this team win games, you know what I mean? Like, I know that first we have to be healthy to see who can really play well together. Like, I know that Tyler and Duncan have played well of late together, and surprisingly, like especially on the defensive end. So we're just really gonna have to see once Terry comes back, when Josh Richardson comes back, and especially when Jimmy Butler comes back. How are the lineups gonna work? Because yes, defense is great, but this team struggles on the offensive end, and especially with the offense, with the Bucks game and the 76ers game with Tyler and Duncan, it's looked great with them. The ball movement is fantastic. So we're gonna have to really, just tinker with that lineup to see 1 through 5 who's gonna play together, and especially with Jovic, or is Highsmith gonna play the 4? So Spo's really gonna have to make some big decisions going forward.
I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I think I said this a few roundtables ago, but I'll be 100% real. I really believe that the playoffs, second half of the season, we're going to have to dwindle this roster down into like our top 7, 8 guys. If Jovic doesn't work out as a starting power forward moving forward, going into playoffs, I really think Spo should consider starting Jaime Jaquez at the 4. Like, I really like instead of Caleb Martin. Jaime Jaquez is bigger in size. He's stronger. And I think a front court with Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, and Jaime Jaquez Jr. can work better. And that way, this allows Caleb Martin to be the main wing player coming off the bench with Duncan Robinson and Kevin Love. So, because you guys know, Spo doesn't really go 9-man. I think Josh Richardson's going to be the odd guy out moving forward, especially in the playoffs. Like, you may see him play some games, you may not see him play some games. So I'm interested what you guys think. Like, if Jovic doesn't work out, would you guys prefer Haywood Highsmith, Caleb Martin, or Jaime Jaquez Jr. as the starting 4? This is if Jovic doesn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned Jovic because he either starts or doesn't play basketball. Like he's played 22 games of the 55 so far, 22 of the 55, right? And he started 10 like a month ago, right? So he had like that one span where he got to play a lot. And then because of injuries, when we're shorthanded, that's when he comes in. So I saw that report too about Jovic being a secret weapon. The only way he's a secret weapon is if he cracks the rotation for the remainder of the season. He needs, even if he's not our starting 4, because again, I think I'd rather have Duncan inserted into that starting lineup somehow, and keeping Caleb Martin, I guess, on there or whoever it may be. But he needs to play in order to be a secret weapon. So he needs the confidence and the minutes. And so that's one factor. The other factor of that is just who's playing the best and who's healthy. Because do you remember when we were playing against, I think it was against Boston, Caleb Martin wasn't starting. He was coming off the bench. And then finally, when we're in the playoffs, you got to play your top 5. He was one of our top 5. Then we finally inserted him in there and we saw what happened. So I think timing matters because we're so deep and we have so many similar wing type players. It just depends on who's playing better. Because right now, Jaquez, I would say no, based on just the way he's been playing after the injury. He's starting to play a little bit better. So I would say maybe no to him, maybe no to Caleb because he's been inconsistent. And I would try to insert a Jovic or Duncan right now because they're both playing well. So I think it just all depends on who's playing well and who's healthy at the time. Kind of a cop-out answer, but I don't know. Martel, what do you think about like optimal starting lineup in the playoffs?
Well, it comes down to matchup, but I think that Jovic should definitely get some run because think about it. Why do we have him on the roster then? Why do we continue to quote-unquote build him up? He's going to need these game-time reps. He's going to need these playoff reps especially too. So I think honestly between, Highsmith or Jovic, I think that they should, maybe battle it out like within the 2, like when it comes to the 4 position. And then like with Tyler Hero, like I said, hopefully Tyler Hero can continue to play more off ball so that, he doesn't really have the ball in his hands. This Miami Heat team, we have so many weapons. There's no reason for him to try to chuck up 20 shots. You know what I mean? I don't think he has to do that. All we need for him to do is just to be a good playmaker, hit those 3-point shots, spread the floor a little bit, and let Jimmy and Bam work because we all know that when it comes to the playoffs, that's where our depth comes in. That's where we'll be able to beat other teams by, just showing each other love on the court by spreading the ball around and just playing as a team because we don't necessarily have the superstar talent all the time, but we can beat other teams by playing as a team, if you see what I'm saying.
Yep.
I hear you. I mean, what I was trying to say with Highsmith, Martin, and Jaquez, because I know that's where we're going to go. I don't think Jovic is going to play in the playoffs. I really don't think so. And Spo likes to go 7-man, 8-man. I think if you're dwindling down players between the three, Jaquez might be the best option. And by the playoffs, I think he's going to be fresh. But I get what you guys are saying. I hope Jovic gets the opportunity. He's got the size. He's got the skill.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this real quick, Ernest. So we talked about Duncan a little bit going into the starting lineup. It seems unlikely, but he's playing really well next to Tyler. And Tyler and Duncan are both really good pick and roll players with Bam Adebayo. So if it was the Sixers game in the first 2 minutes of the game, Duncan had 2 alley-oops off pick and roll to Bam, which is huge, getting Bam easy baskets. He's been taking that mid-range all day and has been inconsistent, right? So we need to get Bam some easy opportunities, and Duncan provides that. And we saw that Duncan and Tyler were like setting each other up as well, playing well off each other. The issue is hunting and defense, all that stuff, but who gives a shit at this point? Like, we need to score more. That's the biggest issue. So I don't know if it's plausible that he's going to play, because we obviously know Tyler's not going to go on the bench. It doesn't seem like Terry would be the odd man out in theory that Spo could ask, would you come off the bench, be our sixth man? That seems unlikely too. So in theory, could you imagine or see a lineup of Terry, Tyler, Duncan, and then Jimmy has to move to the 4 and then Bam? What are your thoughts on that lineup? Because we're going back to the Duncan piece. You saw his stats. We're 15-5 with him starting. We're 14-1 if he scores 20 plus points. Like, the numbers aren't lying right now. So just what are your thoughts on that lineup? Would that make sense, or do you think defensively would be limited?
I mean, yeah, it would limit us defensively. That would be one hamper, And secondly, I don't think, Jimmy said it before, he's not a 4. Jimmy likes playing the 3. Jimmy likes having another wing with him so they can switch off. I honestly don't think it'll work. I mean, that's awesome for 2K. That's an awesome lineup for 2K. But I don't think it'll work NBA-wise simply because of the defensive liability. I think the optimal lineup, if you ask me, for the playoffs, Bam, Jaquez, Jimmy, Duncan, and Tyler, just to have size. So all of your 5 players starting are 6'5" and taller. You have Terry Rozier as the 6th man with Caleb Martin and Kevin Love. That's your 8-man rotation. You can sprinkle some Jovic and Josh Richardson when you need them. They can give you nice little spurts, 5 to 8 minutes when you need them, especially Josh for his defense. But that's where I feel Spo's going to go. I really believe that Jaquez may get the nod for the starting power forward if he continues to get better the second half of the year.
Yep. I don't think Spo's going to change the rotation when everybody's healthy. I think it's going to be Terry, Tyler, insert a Caleb or Jaquez or Haywood, one of those 3, right, that you mentioned, regular season.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have Jimmy and Bam. So he's got a tinker. He has a lot of toys he can play with, which is good. So that's a good thing. We'll be healthy, hopefully, after.
He got a new toy.
There's a new toy. Perfect segue. Thank you. So Miami Heat buyout market. It seemed like we weren't going to sign anybody. Like, everybody that was associated to the Miami or linked to the Heat signed with other players. Thad Young, Suns, Gallinari, Bucks. But we finally got some breaking news today, which I didn't expect during All-Star weekend. So the Miami Heat is going to sign DELON WRIGHT from the Washington Wizards when he clears waivers. So, Martel, what are your thoughts on him? He's not a point guard. Truly, he's more of a combo guard, but he's a 6'5" point guard, shooting guard. Just what are your thoughts on him and his impact in cracking our rotation?
Yeah, so it's like what you said. He's a 6'5" guard, which is good. Especially with Terry and Josh out, we're definitely going to need a good defender that's going to be next to Tyler Hero. So that will help take some of the pressure off of, Tyler Hero defensively. So I'm hoping that, he can come in and make a very good impact. He's the type of guard that Spo does like to play. His brother used to play for the Miami Heat, so they do have that Miami Heat connection. He is also a fan of D Wade, which, pretty much all the people that we get, they all love D Wade. So, I'm hoping that once everybody gets back, he can also still have a spot within the rotation. But I think he should be good, a decent 3-point shooter. He's quick. He's athletic. That's the type of stuff that the Miami Heat need on their roster.
To add to that, I will say this. When I saw that signing, I mean, it was cool. I did a little short about it. But then I saw that signing and I'm like, okay, you filled your last roster spot. I know we can cut Orlando Robinson or Drew Smith to pick up another buyout if we wanted to, but when I saw that signing, I'm like, is Josh Richardson and Terry Rozier's injury worse than what we think, because we don't. I mean, he's fine. You know what he brings is definitely someone you can use. You know the Miami Heat, how much we love wing defenders. I know he's a combo guard. We don't have a backup point guard, so this was something that Heat fans have been clamoring for: size or a backup point guard that can shoot threes and can defend. We got that. So I think that's cool. I think it'll help out in case Josh or Terry get injured again, but it doesn't address the problem we have, but there's nobody available to fix that problem. Like, who are you going to pick up? Robin Lopez? No. For what? To sit in the end of the bench and do nothing? Nah. DELON Wright, he can play, and then this gives an opportunity that if Jimmy wants to take a few more games off down the stretch to, get ready for the playoffs, even though I don't condone that, but it gives us another wing player to play out there. But Jesus Christ, Eric Spoelstra probably fucking put the DELON Wright in the starting power forward or some shit like that.
Yeah, it was a need that was addressed. It wasn't the ultimate need that us Heat fans have been complaining about, because Thomas Bryant is unplayable, and it's just defense. Like, he's shown like spurts like in his career with the Wizards and Lakers that like he can score, but he's just like pretty one-dimensional, doesn't have the best hands, and just defensively, he gets benched on every team that he's been on for a reason. So people in the comments just complain, why is Thomas Bryant not playing? Why is Orlando not playing? I went to Fresno State. I rep Orlando, right? But like, he's young and raw still, and he was undrafted, and like, he's clumsy to a certain degree. Like, he's inconsistent because he's nervous. He doesn't like, the psychology of it too is a part of it, that he's not getting playing time. And you could see when he's playing in garbage time against the Bucks, like, that was horrible when he came in and Alondas came in and Swider came in, like, and then the Bucks put in Thanasis, which is like the best fucking white flag you could see. Like, game over. Thanasis is in a game. It's like the best thing you could see as a Heat fan. That was like garbage basketball for 7 minutes, right? Like, both teams couldn't score shit. So, like, there's a reason why they're not playing. So we were upset that we do need a backup sort of center, because Orlando and Thomas Bryant aren't cutting it. And we got DELON Wright, but guess what he is? He's one of Ernest's like favorite terms that he likes to use for the Miami Heat wing players. He's a Swiss Army knife. Like, he could play kind of point guard. He could play kind of shooting guard. If not, he could play small forward for us. He's 6'5", athletic, long, good point of attack defender. He's taking Josh Richardson's spot right now. That's like, if he's going to get minutes, because I believe he's going to play over Jovic. Like, Jovic is probably not going to get the minutes realistically. We know Duncan realistically is not going to start because Spo is stubborn, right? As much as we want it, I don't think Duncan's going to start. I don't think Jovic is going to start or be in the rotation, but he's taking, I think, Jay Rich's minutes. We'll see what happens when they come back. To your point, Ernest, Jay Rich might be out longer. Who knows? It might not be 2 weeks. It might be 4 to 5 weeks. And that's like 10, 15 games. And we only have 27 left. So,
yeah. I mean, he dislocated his shoulder, right? That's what they came up with.
Yeah. Julius Randle, like, when all said and done, he's going to be out for at least a minimum of 4 weeks. And he had the same injury as Julius Randle. So he's going to be out for 2 weeks. It's nice that at least one of the weeks is during All-Star break. So, like, he's not going to be missing games, but he'll get reevaluated. So who knows? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what was it? I forgot. Was it his shooting arm?
I think it was his right shoulder. Yeah, I think it was his right shoulder. If I'm trying to vividly try to remember.
Month. If it was his non-shooting arm, then I'd say 2 weeks. But if it was a shooting arm, I'd say probably 4 weeks. Most likely.
But even if it's your non-shooting arm and he's right-handed, if it's the off arm, like, usually drive to your right. If you're ball dominant on the right, you drive and then you should. I mean, NBA soft these days. There's not much contact, but you know what I mean. You get that body with your left shoulder. So anyway,
good signing.
Before we end the episode, just want to talk about the outlook of the Miami Heat after All-Star break. So again, 27 games left, half a game from the Pacers, Knicks, Sixers, free falling. I think Knicks will pick up because they're going to get OG back and then Randall back. So 2 big players missing. But what are your predictions for the rest of the season, guys? So we're trying to avoid the play-in like the plague. Like, we don't need extra mileage on Jimmy Butler, right? We need him to be healthy and rested. So we don't want the 8th seed. That would be so detrimental if we somehow lose the play-in like we did last year as a 7th seed and had to become the 8th seed and play the Celtics the first round. We need to avoid that by all costs. So how do the Heat avoid that moving forward? And what's your prediction on where we're going to finish at the end of the season? What seed do you think will be? You want to
Bro,
hop
this
in,
all
Marcel?
this all starts with Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler. Now, especially Jimmy, because think about it, he's gonna probably have what, maybe almost a month off of basketball. So once he returns, it's go time. Because think about it, he's not gonna play maybe the last 3 games. So then that means he's gonna get even more rest closer to the end of the season. It's time for Jimmy Butler to lead this team. This team, Tyler and Bam are great, but they cannot carry night in and night out versus these other, good teams in the NBA. All these teams across the NBA right now, they're going to try to finish strong to make sure that they're in the right seating. I'm hoping that the Miami Heat can at least get the 5th spot or the 6th spot, because the 6th spot, that's out of the play-in, right?
Yep, 7 and 8 are playing
So
teams.
at least the 6th or the 5th. Like I said, it's time for Jimmy Butler to start hooping. It's time for him to lead this team. They feed off of all of his energy, and we go as far as Jimmy Butler takes us. Now, of course, Tyler and Bam are going to have to do their thing, which they have been like the past 2 games. But especially when everybody gets healthy, everything starts and ends with Jimmy Butler.
What's your prediction? Where do you think they'll end up end of the season?
Probably 6th or the 5th. Probably
Ernest?
the 6th or the 5th.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their schedule. Their next 10 games, they have 5 really tough matchups, but then 5 very winnable games. The tough matchups are the Pelicans, the Kings, the Nuggets, the Thunder, and the Mavericks. So you got some. You got you got the Nuggets again too. So you got some very tough matchups. I think, to Martel's point, with this All-Star break and with Jimmy Butler taking time off, I think when he comes back, it's going to be go time. Terry Rozier is going to come back. March is always Miami Heat's best month. We always turn it on. This happened last year, but we did get a little held back with injury as well. But this year, if we stay healthy, I think the Heat will make a run. I think they will get out of the play-in situation. I don't think you want to go through that again. Even though if we do go through that, I'm still confident. But I think I agree with Martel. I think 6th or 5th. I would love the 6th seed, because I've been saying this all year long. Give me Boston again in the conference finals. And how do you get Boston? You need to play either seed 2 or seed 3. So I want 6. So that way we don't have to play in the play-in. And then we'll take on Milwaukee or one of these teams in the first round. I know that he can beat any of these teams. Give me Boston round 3 Eastern Conference Finals, 3 years straight. That's what I want.
I like that too. I think 6th. I'm going to predict we're going to be 6th. And I'm hoping we play the Knicks over. I hope the Bucks don't fall to 3. I mean, that's still a pretty tough out. I think we could beat the Bucks, but I mean, Giannis is still a top 3, 4 NBA player. So that's tough. You don't think so? You don't think he's top 4?
Oh, no, he is. But
I thought
here's the problem with Giannis. Whenever he sees a Miami Heat jersey, the bitch comes out of him. So, yeah, I'll still take Milwaukee on round 1. I don't care. I'll take any of them. Milwaukee, New York, Cleveland. I don't care. I want all the smoke. Just save Boston for the conference finals. That's what I want.
Agree. But I would still prefer the Bucks be 2nd, and we could play either the Knicks or the Sixers as the 3rd seed. I mean, assuming the Sixers can sustain not having Joel Embiid, which I don't think they can necessarily. But to your point, I agree. 6th seed sounds good. And even if we do play the Bucks, if they fall to the 3rd seed, I want all that smoke. The only time they swept us was when they went 4-0 against us in 2021, shortest offseason in NBA history for a team, right? Because of the bubble. And
the Bucks had a long off season.
Yes. And also Bryn Forbes got arrested, if you saw on Twitter. So there's no more Bryn Forbes, who was the Miami Heat killer, right? Bryn Forbes killed us in that series. So I'll take on the Bucks. But yeah, I think 6th seed is what I predict as well. Excited. We need playoff Jimmy during the regular season now. No more load managing in games, no more load managing in general. Right now, obviously, he has a very valid and good excuse for why he's missing some games. But if we can hold off while he's been out, that's good, because he's getting some rest, which is a good thing, right? Like arrested Jimmy Butler, who has more to lift in his legs and his jump shot, like, is a good thing. So we need him to step up. The big 3 need to step up.
And the fact that the Heat won those last 2 games against the Bucks and the Sixers, I don't think people understand how great that was, because your confidence got shot up. You won those games without Jimmy, Rozier, and Richardson. So now you're going to come with the second half of the year with these guys. I think we're going to see I predict the Heat are going to have the best record in March. I'm predicting that right now. I think the Heat will have the best record in March. I may be wrong. Good Lord. But I have a strong feeling about Miami in March. I really do. And I'm liking the matchup. I'm liking the matchups that we have later on in the season in March and going into April. I think the Heat are going to do some damage March and April.
Yep, March. We have some good, easy games against the Pistons and the Wizards and teams like that. So we better dominate. So let's see if we got to think of a nickname for Nostradamus over here because Ernest to Dramus doesn't really flow well. So we got to figure out. We got to figure out if Ernest is correct or not. We'll see after March. But anyway,
I hope so, man.
Yeah,
trying to be confident.
Hey, it looked bleak for a little bit, but this is what Miami does to you, baby. They're up and down. They're torturous, right? One of the most torturous teams to follow, man. Just stressful. There's no sweet without the sour, right? So that's what we love about the Miami Heat. But anyway, Thank you so much, guys. Hope you guys enjoy All-Star break. Hopefully our boy Jaime wins the dunk contest because I'm more excited about the dunk contest and skills challenge and 3-point crap versus the game. The game has always been kind of boring. I mean, I'm not a kid anymore. When I was like in high school and younger, like, All-Star weekend was like the shit. I still enjoy it, but I enjoy the challenges more. So hopefully our boy Jaime can come up with a victory today actually as well. He's playing in a game as well. So
just don't get hurt. That's all I care. Just don't get hurt. That's all I care about. I don't care if he wins. I don't care if he loses. I don't care. Just don't get hurt. That's it. Bam, Jaime, just don't get hurt. Please.
Well, the good thing about Bam is that he's not like an all-star type of guy. You know what I mean? Like whenever he's been an all-star, like he doesn't get that many minutes because he's not like a Devin Booker, KD, Steph, and all those guys who try to show out and do all that type of stuff. So yeah, knock on wood. I mean, at least we could be cursed with Miami Heat injuries, but luckily we haven't had injuries in the All-Star game, right? That's just
true that. Well, people, look, don't forget, like, subscribe. Team to be Miami Heat, Miami Heat Talk, Miami Heat Zone podcast. Even though we dropped out, hope Martel's okay. And don't forget, we also have Miami Heat Network with Trent, guys. Appreciate your love and support. Until next time, that's enough said.